Welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Librarian Show with Mr. Evans. On today's show, we'll take a look at some of the killer artwork that your fellow Monsoons have created based on novels here in our library. We're going to talk about reading, how awesome reading is, and how it makes you even more awesome than you already are.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
Well, hello, Mrs. Quezada! Ladies and gentlemen, a surprise guest, the one, the only, Mrs. Quezada from the Middle School English Department. To what do we owe this great pleasure?
Well, I saw you filming your show over here, and I thought I'd stop by and see everything in action.
Oh, wow, that's great. So you're a fan?
No.
No. Okay, well, I know a lot of teachers are extremely busy, and it can be really hard to show your students some episodes right away. But I'm sure you'll find time to play a few episodes really soon.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
Excellent! So glad to hear it. I really hope they enjoy it. Anyway, I was about to share some of the things I'm really excited about.
Yeah. Okay, well that sounds great. But as you know, I teach middle school English, and I love it. It's amazing. They're amazing. But they're so new to the school and everything it has to offer, including the library. And you always help us out with some great book recommendations. But I was wondering if you could help us out with the process of finding the books and just the ins and outs of the library.
Oh my gosh. I know what you're trying to ask me here, Mrs. Quezada.
You do?
Yes, I do. You want me to create an episode that's dedicated entirely to introducing our students to the library and how to best use all of its resources.
No, I wasn't.
Yes, my answer is yes, Mrs. Quezada. Of course I will.
No.
I would be so honored to devote an entire episode of our show, the Nerd Librarian Show with Mr. Evans, to helping middle school students become familiarized with our library.
But I never asked you to.
And I shall call it Season 2, Episode 4, the Nerd Librarian Orientation episode of the Nerd Librarian Show with Mr. Evans.
Wow, that title is way too long.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a checklist of all the things your students need to know in order to get the most out of Mayfair's library.
Oh wow, so we're really doing this. Wait, do you always carry that with you?
Yeah. And I'm going to use it to help your students become superstars of the library. Now, go to them. Share the joyous news of the new episode.
I'll get right on that. You need help.
It was great to see you too, Mrs. Quezada. First of all, I want to get to the business side of things. Then I'm going to get to the good stuff. The library is open from 7 to 3:30, Monday through Friday, with some exceptions. For instance, we often have Rise after school on Fridays. Or maybe I'm having a book talk. Or maybe we're closed for lunch for state testing. You never know. Sometimes we just lock the doors, make a big fort out of the books, take a long nap, whatever. The point is, don't wait until the last minute to use the library or it might be too late. Speaking of using the library, there's one thing you need in order to come here during class time. It's not a lightsaber, it's not a unicorn, and it's not a pet Pikachu. No, ladies and gentlemen, in order to use the library during class hours, you must have a pass from the class you're supposed to be in that period. No pass, no service. All right, let's take a look at the layout of the library. Through the front doors and on your left is our fiction section in these tall off-white shelves. Fiction. Here you'll find almost endless creative stories brought to you by some of the most imaginative people on the planet. Now, through the front doors and to the right is our nonfiction section, organized into sections like the arts, history, and biographies. The nonfiction section is a personal favorite, and it's where you'll find factual information that can help you learn about the world around you and yourself. Nice. The library is also where you come to get a replacement ID. For $5, that is. So do yourself a favor and hold on to the free one you get at the beginning of the year. Oh, and make sure you memorize this 5-digit number on your ID card. You're going to be needing it. Now, let's talk tech. On the right side of the library are multiple computers available for student use. Note the information on the wall to help guide you through the process, from logging on to how to print to the cost of printing. Check that out before you start asking for assistance. Also, there's an attached computer lab with many more computers that we sometimes open up if more computers are needed. All right, let's talk about books. Books are one of the greatest resources available to human beings, past, present, and future. They open up whole new worlds to us. They exercise our brains without us even knowing it, and they can provide endless entertainment for all and anyone willing to pick one up. It's because we love books so much that we have to lay out a few ground rules so that this library can continue to provide and maintain a vast selection of literature. First off, how long can you keep a library book that you check out? The answer to that question, fellow Monsoons, is 3 weeks. Whoa, that's a pretty long time. And if you need more time with the book, come on in and we can renew it for you. Up next, what can you do if the book you want is not available? Easy peasy, just come to the front counter and ask us to put the book on hold for you. When the book finally comes back, we'll send a notice to you that it's ready for you to pick up in the library. Okay, this next question makes me sad. What happens if you lose or damage a library book beyond repair? You have to pay for it. And you can pay for it at the accounting window, then bring the receipt back to the library and we'll clear your account. Remember, you can't participate in activities like dances if your library account isn't clear. So take care of those books, Monsoons. And finally, this is a big one. Who can check out a book that's marked YA with one of these stickers on the spine of the books? Books that are marked YA contain adult content, whether it's violence, drug use, sex, profanity, etc. So, the answer to that question is only high school students can check out YA books. Middle school students cannot check out YA books unless you come to the front counter with the book, fill out one of these YA permission slips, take it home, get it signed by your parent or guardian, and bring it back to the library within 2 school days. Then, and only then, the book shall be yours. All right, the last item on the business end of things.
Middle school lunch.
Yes, that's right, middle school lunch.
Hey, what's going on over here? What's with the gloomy sound effects?
Well, Mrs. Quezada, I was just about to discuss middle school lunch with our fine young audience.
Okay, I don't get it though. Isn't this a great time for the kids to decompress, take a break from all the learning they've been doing?
It is. Middle school lunch is a truly magical time where they get to eat, run around, play on their cell phones, scream and yell, and socialize, and do everything that they can't always do when they're in class all day.
So then what's the problem? What's with the sound effects?
I'm so glad that you asked, Mrs. Quezada. This is crucial that they understand this. You see, while it may be their time for middle school lunch, it is not middle school lunch in the library. It's still just the library.
Makes sense.
To enter the library during lunch, you guys have to actually be using the library for something. Whether it's finding a book, studying quietly, using a computer, or whatever. The same rules and expectations for behavior apply all day long in the library, even during middle school lunch. And we work really hard to make sure that that happens, and we will discipline anyone who is not behaving accordingly. We take a lot of pride in making this a great place for students who want to use the library as a library.
Seems reasonable, Mr. Evans.
Right? I think so too. Hey, guess what? Middle school lunch is coming up. You want to help supervise?
Gee, that sounds really fun.
Yeah.
I have something, I have to go somewhere else.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Okay. Hey, maybe next time. All right. And now for the grand finale. Some of the good stuff. First up on my list of good stuff is your one-stop shop for killer book suggestions, our book suggestion catalog. Located right by the front counter, this catalog has hundreds of book suggestions separated by genre. That's a pretty French word that just means the type of book, like suspense or comedy or whatever. Here you'll find an image of the cover of the book, the title, the author, what grade level should read it, and the call number, which I'll talk about in a second. This is an amazing place to start looking for a book if you have no idea where to start looking for a book. Another great place to look, the Monsoon Wall, located through the front doors and straight back. Here we have 4 unique sections dedicated to book suggestions. There's a section for nonfiction, which is a great place to learn about the world around you and yourself. Also, check out the Monsoon's Recommend section, where you can see what your fellow students are reading and check it out. You can also put books up there that you yourself enjoyed as well. Think of it as a conversation here on campus about books, except you don't have to talk to anyone if you don't want to. There's the New Arrivals section, where I place any new arrivals that I've purchased. And finally, there's the Mr. Evans Recommends section. These are books that I have read and enjoyed and that I think you might like too. Each month is a different genre as well. For instance, October is, of course, suspense and horror month. Ooh. If you can't find anything there, we also have a killer section of streaming media by the front counter. Each month, there's a new playlist of content. From book trailers by the publishers, to video book reviews by your fellow Monsoons, to funny skits about reading, to the Nerd Librarian show with Mr. Evans. The coolest part of it all is that the books that are discussed on the playlists are available right below on a shelf underneath the monitor. It doesn't get any easier than that. Well, I guess the only thing that's left to help you find a book is kind of an important one as well. It's our library catalog. Basically, you guys have access to the same program that I use for finding all of our books. You don't even have to talk to us to find a book. I mean, you can if you want to. But if you don't want to, you can march right through the front door, right past the front counter, to the library catalogs that are available to you. Pro tip, it's right by shelf 5 in the fiction section. Once you're here, you can search for books by keyword, title, author, subject, or even series. Most of you want to search by title. So you simply enter the title of the book and click Title to narrow your search. Your search results will pop up, and here we are. The very first entry is The Enemy by Charlie Higson. It shows the cover of the book, the title, and most importantly, the call number right below it. The call number will help you to find the book. The first part of every call number is the section in which you'll find the book. In this case, FIC stands for fiction. The second part is where you will find the book alphabetically in that section. It is also the first 3 letters of the author's last name. A fiction novel written by Charles Higson is in the fiction section, alphabetized under H-I-G. Another important thing to look at over here to the right is the number available. Don't simply jump for joy because we have the book and go start looking for it right away. You need to verify that we have 1 or more copies available. In this case, we own 4 copies, and one of them is indeed available. At that point, you make your way over to the fiction section and search for the section that has the letters H-I-G on the shelf. Finally, we have a ton of cool stuff that you can check out here in the library and on our YouTube account. All the artwork in the library is created by Monsoons for Monsoons. We have Monsoon-made posters, Monsoon-made 3D artwork created from damaged books, Monsoon-made book trailers, Monsoon-made book reviews, even Monsoon-made music videos about books. What? And every piece of art in here represents a book that you can check out. Also, we do book talks where we talk about all sorts of awesome novels, and we show book trailers on our 96-inch screen with a 7-speaker sound system. How many libraries do you know have a 7-speaker sound system? Anyway, check out our YouTube channel too. It's full of all sorts of amazing content related to books.
Wow, that's actually really cool. I think my students will like that.
I know, right? A huge thanks to our special guest, Mrs. Quezada from the Middle School English Department. I cannot wait to see you guys here in Mayfair's library. And as we always sign out here on the show, be good to each other, Monsoons.